Small actions can have big impacts, especially when it comes to safety.
From preventing an injury to a fellow coworker to identifying a problem that might be putting employees at risk nationwide, your actions make us safer every day at each facility and throughout the FAA.
That's why our theme for this year's Safety Stand Down is One Safe Act.
Your safe acts are an essential part of the FAA-wide effort to make sure all our employees and our national airspace system stay safe every day. Your acts may seem small or localized, but when taken together, they keep our thousands of technicians out of harm's way.
For instance, recently an employee in Florence, South Carolina reminded a colleague about proper procedures during an emergency.
The technicians were at the Florence VOR site, and their task for that day was to actually relocate batteries from the site and have them disposed of at the local recycling center. During the task of removing the batteries from the VOR site, one of the technicians accidentally dropped one of the batteries, which caused the battery to crack and spill. The first reaction was to clean the truck as well as the contaminated surface where the spill occurred.
They wanted to get in the truck and head back to the SSC where they could have access to water. That's when I said, well, no, let's just call the manager to see how we're to proceed. And that's a good thing we did because the procedure called for us neutralizing it right here at the location.
I spoke with Billy Hodges, who was the on-site safety observer, and he told me he felt like what they were initially about to do may not have been the right decision. And so he had to make the call to not move the truck and to contain the spill at the VOR site. It takes a lot of courage at times to be that one voice to say, hey, we need to stop what we're doing and look at doing this a better way, especially during stressful situations.
Everyone's different in an emergency situation. You know, you don't know what you're going to do till you're called upon to do it. You can sit here and say, well, I'll do this, I'll do that, but the proof is in the pudding.
That's really the reason why when we're doing any task in the FAA, we really stress two-man integrity. If we're doing something that has the potential to be unsafe, that's why we have a safety observer on site. We understand, you know, during stressful situations that at times our minds can go blank. And it's at those times it's important to reflect on the previous training you've received and to rely on your teammates that are on site with you during the job. The philosophy and the culture that's really been promoted in the FAA is if you see something that's unsafe, report it, stop it, ask questions, and find a better solution.
It may seem like a small thing, but in this case, one safe act had a big impact. That's a great example of employees looking out for one another. It certainly made a difference at the local level.
But sometimes, what seems like a local issue can be a nationwide problem. The Unsatisfactory Condition Report, or UCR, and TSAP provide ways for us to discover and address those lurking hazards.
So, when you see something that looks dangerous, report it. That helps us learn about safety concerns we otherwise would not see and would not be able to solve. That's exactly what happened recently at Albuquerque Center.
In the event of a fire alarm, their immediate means of egress is through stairwell number 3, that doorway. When they leave, the door closes behind them and locks.
If you choose that means of egress and go out that door and begin going up the stairs, if it's smoky or fire is engulfed that, you won't be able to get to the exterior exit. And the door will have closed behind you by the time you figure it out. You're trapped. You can't get back out that way. You can't come back in the door. Now there's a problem. Smoke would probably be the real concern.
They're going to literally choke to death in the stairwell without anyone ever really knowing. Albuquerque didn't have a card reader. They use a keyed lock, and not every employee has a key for that door.
So we had a submitter from the Albuquerque Center who submitted a TSAP report that stated they were concerned about becoming entrapped in stairwell number 3.
An individual took the time to take that extra step and say, has anybody really looked at this? We see a potential hazard that could end in a catastrophic event. And they filed it through the TSAP program.
And the ERC, or the Event Review Committee, looks at that report. They make sure that there's not some latent concern or safety condition that's out there.
And the ERC actioned that item and did a little research and found out that 5 centers throughout the country had similar setups that could result in the same demise.
Albuquerque committed to acquiring and installing an electronic card reader. but you've got to have your card key to get back in that door.
When the alarm goes off, your immediate concern is to vacate the area.
But if you go, you must carry your card key. It's important to know that by using the TSAP program, that one individual, one report, has helped us identify a systemic problem throughout the NAS at all the centers.
One person makes a difference.
That employee noticed an issue with the fire exit, filed a TSAP report, and revealed a hazard that threatened the safety of hundreds of employees. Thanks to that report, we were able to improve safety for employees at several other facilities.
It's a great example of something that seemed like a small problem having much bigger implications. But occasionally, a big problem can feel too intimidating to address.
That should never be the case. When it comes to safety, we listen to your concerns and we act on them, because we know you have the most direct connection to the operation and the sharpest eyes for safety. Those eyes were key to identifying a big problem with a big program in Charlotte.
The Runway Status Lights, or RWSL, is a program designed to take airplanes on taxiways and runways, and it's a red light system.
All the equipment servicing runway status lights is housed in equipment shelters across the airport.
The shelter itself was actually put in with one HVAC system, or heating, ventilation, air conditioning system. So that was all done. They found out there was a criticality of the equipment itself that said we needed a backup heating, air conditioning system. So that was a modification they did to the equipment. We came back in to do another inspection, and that's when we actually caught this most recent dilemma.
Just coming in the shelter, we started looking at the clearances. Your personal clearance around the equipment should be 36 inches.
We went to the backside of the CCRs, the current regulators,
and then we looked at the wall that the HVACs are mounted on. Without any equipment there, it's right at 36 inches.
The bare minimum legal requirement.
We started taping off where our safety zone would be, and then verified that the boxes, conduit, and other controls that were installed did encroach in the safety area.
We've got a situation, it's illegal. 36 inches is a tolerance. There's not a plus or minus of a couple inches. It's exactly 36. This is a real safety concern for technicians as well as the equipment. EOSH Services actually gave me a call, said this is what we do for you. We actually help you by working with the program offices so that when they start bringing in new equipment, we're there on the first step, making sure that not only the equipment they're designing is safe, but making sure that is actually a true statement. National EOS turned around and wrote a report. They brought up to the program office at the runway status light side of the house. The program office from RWSL turned around and put a new modification in for every runway status light shelter. So for the ones that already got modded like we did with the illegal 36 inches, they're coming back to refurbish and redo the right way. The ones they're doing for future installs down the road, they've already mitigated that risk out of the system so that they're not going to have the same fight or the same battle or the same safety problem we've got.
You can't always guarantee that somebody looking at prints of this and prints of that every day is going to catch that fine, minute detail. You, as a technician or as a gaining officer, are going to be the one signing the JAI. And once that's done, you own it.
You own it. It's your equipment. It's coming into your house, if you will.
Make it as best you can now, because you will deal with it tomorrow.
You need to make sure that you're taking care of yourself and your equipment. That's the bottom line.
Design does have your best interests at heart, but ultimately, you're the master of your own destiny.
That took a lot of work from a lot of different people throughout Tech Ops, but they all put safety first and eliminated a serious hazard through collaboration. And it all started with one safe act.
So remember, when it comes to safety, no action is too small and no challenge is too big.
Because when you protect your fellow employees and you protect yourself, you protect the NAS.